Bankman-Fried, FTX. I've been teeing Cohodes up on this a little bit on Twitter because he's been doing the work behind the scenes. So, when he goes deep on something, first of all, if he's going deep on you or your company, you better be on the watch. You better take the wig off. And you better definitely, you better be careful. Instead of doing, if you do have questions, by the way, for the queue for Mark, fire him in. But so what the fuck? Why is this guy, how does he keep doing what he's doing?
Well, he's an intriguing character because when you have a big trade, any of your guys have a big trade, or I have a big trade, or my pal Porter Collins has a big trade, or Henry Reardon has a big trade, you know the details of that trade.
Right.
You know the day you hit it, you know all the players involved, you know everything that happened. You'll never forget it. I mean, Learn Out in Houseby, which is where some people know me, was 20 some odd years ago. I can recite the dates, the players, how it happened, everything to this day. When anyone tries to pin SBF down on where he made his money, you can't get a cogent answer. And in his trade, you needed real money up front in the place on this country crypto arbitrage to make big money.
Right.
And it's simple things as who financed you, because you clearly didn't have the money. You clearly didn't have the money. And you look like such a fucking zombie, no one in their right mind would ever give you the money. So who funded this trade for you? Please explain how the trade worked. And his partner, which no one has gotten a straight answer. You've gotten a lot of shine and you've gotten a lot of sideways looks, the fisheye look, but you can't get a real answer. And his partner is a guy named Gary Wang. And no one can find shit on Gary Wang. And he's on the board of advisors of Sequoia. And I shit you not. You look up Sequoia stuff, there's a picture of Gary Wang with his back facing a computer. There's no picture of Gary Wang.
Really?
None.
He's a partner at Sequoia, or
no, he's not a partner at Sequoia. He's a so-called advisor. Oh. But if SBF is worth $11 billion, allegedly Gary Wang's worth the same amount, and no one can get shit on Gary Wang. I employed a major news organization who was doing a story on him to do the work and to dig in, and they just wouldn't, because I don't know how much money FTX spends in financial PR to get the mainstream media off the path.
But level one analysis, so Gary Wang is the same CTO or the chief technology officer of FTX?
Allegedly. Okay. Allegedly. But there's a chief regulatory officer of FTX, and his name is Dan Friedberg. And if you Google Dan Friedberg poker scandal, he was the general counsel of, I don't know if it was Ultimate Bets or one of those Me Too sites, where they basically cheated against players.
Oh, great.
So usually if you cheat in cards on an online poker thing, you're kind of a marked man. And if you hit up Dan Friedberg's LinkedIn, there's no mention of his time at the poker site. There's no mention of it. Yet, he's the chief fucking regulatory officer of FTX, which is a big fucking job.
Wow.
So if you're hiding your past and not putting it on LinkedIn, and you have this big job at FTX, either FTX knew they hired a chief regulatory officer who was part of a card cheating scandal. Either they knew that, or he covered it up and got hired. If he covered it up and they got hired, he should be fired on the spot. And if he then goes and covers up his past, he should be fired on the spot, because that's a big fucking job. Wow. And then you take into account that SBF is bailing out known Ponzi's and frauds in the crypto space. Everyone who's gone bankrupt or is a proven fraud. But he's not buying them out in front of things. He's buying them out behind. He's not buying them out behind and getting senior of things, he's buying them out in front of and getting scammed in these things as well. And if you're a legitimate business guy, why would you throw good money after bad? And why wouldn't you wait till these things blow up? I mean, blow up and go out of business and pick up the pieces. And somehow through that, Cartoon Network has painted him as the JP Morgan of crypto, which makes absolutely no sense. He's not the JP Morgan of crypto because he can't sit there, look at you straight in the face and explain anything. He can't explain anything. Then he was in Hong Kong and then somehow moved from Hong Kong to the Bahamas, where in the Bahamas he lives with 6 other people in a commune or a compound and sleeps on a futon. Now, if I was worth
do you know where his house is in the Bahamas? Do you got logistics on?
No,
all
I do not. I don't want to be accused of tracking anyone down. I'll have another FBI visit or something like that.
Yeah.
So, but nothing of this story fits. And normally in stories, I can get 5 or 6 things that fit and move on. But nothing here fits. Everything reads like this thing is a complete scam. And I have a ton of stuff. And there are some high-level people who are really good who are working on this. And we're talking to a very hard-nosed mainstream media journalist about exposing this entire thing, this entire creation, if you will. And I think this thing is dirty and rotten to the core.
When you say to the core, I was going to use the words criminal and political at the same time, but and because they're ostensibly intertwined. But would the political side of this, or those supporting him politically and financially, be willfully blind? Claim the fifth.
Well, he's the number 2 donor to the Democratic Party. SBF is.
Yeah, that part I knew.
And the part of that I don't understand is this is a 30-year-old guy living in the Bahamas, primarily operating offshore. Why? What's your cause? Is your cause childhood cancer? Is your cause world hunger? What's your cause? Because if your cause is to build pipes between the United States and the financial system here and third world money laundering companies like China or places in Asia, that has a very bad ring to it. Because there are a lot of ways, and I could see a lot of reasons to donate politically, but this makes no sense. And when you add that to most people who turn into something, they have a mentor, right? The Tiger Cubs. Like Julian Robertson. Julian Robertson was a friend. I will miss Julian Robertson. He was funnier than hell. He was really good. And he'd roll over in his grave knowing what the Chase Colemans have done, right? But at least those people were trained by someone good. Mm-hmm. Michael Steinhardt trained a lot of people. A lot of people who worked for Steinhardt. Druckenmiller had Soros. I've helped some people along the way. But people have mentors in this business. Who the fuck has mentored SBF? Where did he come from? He was a washout from Jane Street, where he was nothing more than an intern, where he lasted 18 months. Who taught this guy anything? Who taught this guy the ropes? If you're FTX and you're an exchange, who at that company has exchange experience? I mean, ICE, that runs the New York Stock Exchange, that's a real outfit. Those guys are motherfuckers. They're hard-nosed businessmen. David Goon, who runs T0, he's a 60-year-old guy who's been doing this for 30 years. He left a job that paid him $5 million a year for ICE to go work at T0 for equity, right? To change the way tokens are done. So if someone goes to me and says, who's behind T0? I'll say David Goon. He was the head of strategy for ICE for 30 fucking years. And he walks from $5 million a year annually, guaranteed, to go run T0. Now I say, who the fuck runs FTX? You got a guy who has a mop for a head of hair, who sleeps on a futon in the Bahamas, who goes from Hong Kong to there, whose chief regulatory officer has his hands all over a poker cheating scandal that's not on his LinkedIn.
I was just looking at, as you're talking, I'm doing like a very basic, screen. His LinkedIn doesn't go past, like he's got a huge gap in there. Friedberg, Dan Friedberg, right? And then
exactly. So when you take this to, let's say, a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, and I'm just putting out about 3% of what I have here, and you give it to someone real and say, this can be a bigger scandal / scam than Enron, right? And here we go. And I've gone to Raoul Pal, I've gone to all the crypto guys who know this guy in an interview. And I said, all I want, just give me 30 minutes of his time. Give me 30 minutes of his time. You can tape it, record it, do whatever you want. I just want him and Wang. Him, Wang, and Friedberg. Just give me 30 minutes with them and winner take all. And if these guys,
I bet you Raoul Pal will get right on that for you.
No,
but they're all paid. They're all paying each other. The whole thing.
But whatever it is, we're talking about real money here.
Yeah,
we're talking about real stuff in crypto, and the optics of crypto. I think anyone would say, even if you're a crypto bull right now, are really bad. Rates are up, crypto's down, usage is down, trading is down, everything's down. So where the fuck does FTX make its money? Where do they make their money? How do they make it?
It's a crazy thing. Like, my friend Jim Chanos would say, there's legal fraud, and then once people start to lose a lot of money, it gets prosecuted. He's got a great class at Yale that he teaches on that. Back at one other point, I just want to circle back to one other point because I was looking it up while you were speaking as well. You said, who brought this guy along?
Right.
So his father, correct me if I'm wrong, his name is Joseph Bankman. He's faculty at Stanford Law School.
That's right.
Is that right?
And his mom's at Stanford too. But that has nothing to do with capital markets. That has nothing to do with exchange trading.
No, but right? if it's one thing, like I've had issues with nefarious people behaving certain ways, and I can go back and I could say, well, you do sometimes find a lot in somebody's history, particularly in terms of who raised them, their moral compass, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, if your father is Stanford faculty law over here, and you're doing that over there, now that's something, right? That's quite the juxtaposition.
Well, I don't need to get sued again. I mean, I'm doing pretty good. I'm actually suing a couple people.
And I'm doing pretty good. What do you like, the ACLU?
Well,
who do we sue now?
My medics, for example, I'm suing the FBI and the DOJ on a FOIA basis to find out why they sent people to my house and tell me to shut up. So, but on my medics, where the CEO went to prison, he used to brag that he had a former SEC commissioner on the board.
Right.
And his right-hand man, who created the problems with me and the FBI, was the late Senator Isaacson, who was on the head of the Senate Ethics Committee. So if you're the senator heading the Ethics Committee and you're taking a bribe from a guy who's now in prison for leaning down on me, there's nothing that you can pull over me or surprise me on how fucked up things are. So I don't give a fuck who his dad is or where he works. It just doesn't matter. I mean, I know psychiatrist kids who are the most mentally fucked up people you've ever want to know, right? I mean, nothing has anything to do with anything if you want to bend, twist, and do things like that. And I would argue the fact that his dad's involved in law or teaching at Stanford Law, I think is more ground cover for what I really think is going on here.
That's really interesting. I mean, what do you think just generally, this is tangentially and related, but in bubbles, people get away with a lot of shit, right?
Yep.
They get away with fraud. That's the whole point. they manipulate and steal and cheat and rob the system and and in the end, it's the people that get hurt until they get caught, then they get hurt. But how do you, like somebody like Elon Musk and somebody like, just the fact that the guy's known as SBF, I mean, it sounds like he's the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, for God's sakes. I mean, his name is Sam Bankman-Fried. His name is Elon Musk. I mean, the behavior above the law, I mean, is, to me, it's like part of these concentric circles that are the mother of all bubbles. Any thoughts on that broadly? Is this just what you get when you're coming out of the mother of all bubbles?
That's a good question and a really good point. So I've never been short Tesla and I've never been short Musk because he in my mind is protected. He's protected by the government. He's, no one touches him. And when people say the guy lands rockets, fine, but I'll pick on guys like Helen of Troy and sunglass wearing CEO there. I mean, I'll pick on bumblers and imbeciles. The thing about SBF is what has SBF done? He hasn't done shit in his life, and he can't explain what he's done. And he puts up billboards of himself. I can understand how E-Trade puts up billboards. I can understand how JP Morgan puts up billboards. I can understand how Hedgeye puts up billboards. But I haven't seen or walked by in an area in Boston of seeing the Keith McCullough billboard that has nothing to do with Hedgeye.
And people would really like me.
Right, no, it has nothing to do with Hedgeye. And it's almost like, I have this other thing, I'll just give it away. They want people to focus their eyes on the shiny object. They want people to focus their eyes on this weirdo. They want people to focus on this Asperger's guy, right? And not look at what's really going on, whether it's money laundering or crime or covering shit up or what's really going on behind the scenes. They want you to focus on this weirdo who sleeps on the beach in a commune, all shucksy, has CNBC down, and not look at the reality of it. And in most things I've ever looked at that are complete scams, again, I can find fits, like their drugs work, or this guy's a real guy, or I know so-and-so and it's a real firm. Nothing at FTX fits. Nothing.
Wow.
And I'd love to know how exactly they make their money. Do they make their money by running in front of their customers? Do they make their money, how exactly do they make their money? How did SBF make their money? Who funded SBF? Where is Gary Wang? Is Gary Wang with the CCP? Is the CCP involved in FTX? I mean, these are questions that should be known. And when you're donating such vast amounts to the Democratic Party, what exactly is your mission? And on one hand, you have this weirdo SBF on the left-hand side appealing all these crypto freaks. And on the other side, you have Tom Brady and Giselle and Steph Curry doing their ads and sponsoring the Miami basketball arena and being a patch on Major League umpire shirts. And I can't understand any of it. And I'm not a Harvard guy and I'm not a Yale guy and my grades were shitty. And I worked my ass off. And I think I see things that others don't see because usually when they don't make sense or you can't explain it to a 10th grader in a paragraph or less, something tends to be wrong or you shouldn't be in it, right? Why is Overstock going to win? I can go to a 10th grader and say, they have 3 competitors who do $20 billion of sales. I think they're going to be out of business in 6 to 36 months. I think Overstock could double or triple their business. And if they do that, it's going to be a big stock, young man. It's going to be a big stock. I think Enovix is going to change the way batteries are done in portable devices. They're going to do away with lithium. They last longer. They're made in the United States. They provide Facebook the ability to come with goggles and things like that. You may like or not like the story, but it makes sense. No one can fucking explain FTX to me. No one can explain where SBF came from. No one can explain who mentored SBF. No one can explain, he met his partner at a summer math camp in Canada. Well, if you meet your partner when you're 10 or 12.
Is that true? Is that it's like band camp? What the hell?
Their story. No, that's their story. That Wang and SBF met at math camp in Canada, and I know you're from Thunder Bay. They met at a math camp in Canada when they were younger. Then somehow migrated to MIT together. And Wang, right? Wang, no matter what you are, who the fuck takes a picture of yourself, of your back, looking at a fucking computer and prints it? Who the fuck are you? Right? You just say no picture or Gary Wang. And then the other thing is produce yourself. I have questions, right? I'm a simple guy, right? My grades were never good. I have questions for you, MIT brain surgeons. Very simple questions. And let's air it and let's make it pay-per-view. And whatever I get, I'll give it to a cause. We'll give it to St. Jude's Kids or Hurricane Relief or what have you. But it's important to get to the bottom of this bullshit to see what goes on.
Well, they have an open invitation to be here. I'll just actually, we'll create the perfect open and transparent, accountable, real conversation, just like we always host here. And it's an open. It's for, and I'm sure they're watching. I mean, if they're this in it, they're watching. Somebody's watching. Somebody's telling them. Can you believe Cohodes is saying this? Well, if it's not true, just come on and explain it, because Raoul Paul's not going to host it.
I mean, Freeberg is Freeberg. My lawyer says you have to own the label. Whatever your label is, I own it, right? And I got lovers and I got haters. No problem. I get it. I know I'm not everyone's cup of tea. But Freeberg is what he is. And he was responsible and at that poker cheating scandal outfit. And he was the general counsel there or some higher up. And he's a lawyer. But to be head of regulatory at FTX and have this in your past and cover it up and not address it? I mean, would you guys, as a chief regulatory officer, have a poker cheater or a guy involved in a poker cheating thing on your outfit? I don't think so.
No. And I was short World Poker Tour at one point, but.
Well, I mean, whatever it is, it is. And if I have it wrong, I'm the first to admit I have it wrong. But I don't like it, and I don't like the looks of it. And the problem is, if this thing goes bad, it's going to blow a hole into something, and the people who bail it out are going to be the fucking taxpayers. Or how did this happen? Or how did the lady from Theranos happen? I mean, SBF's parents were Harvard faculty. Well, my daughter, or Stanford faculty. Well, my daughter went to Stanford. Stanford's not without its glitches. They have problems. But look at the board of directors of Theranos. You have the best and the fucking brightest there. And they got bamboozled by the thing. So I just have simple questions. I'm a simple guy. I'm a skeptical guy. None of this fits. And I hate when people make, these poster boys out of these nothings who can't even explain what they've done. I don't like the steroid era in baseball. I don't like guys who cheat. I don't like guys who cheat in gambling, because it diminishes the work that real guys do. It diminishes the efforts that you guys that take. You're sitting there working your ass off, and if guys, the fly-by-nights come by and do these crypto scams, it just darkens everyone's door. So,
well, I mean, I and I'm sure many, not all, not in this environment, and again, the obstacle is the way on that front. I mean, not all people are going to want to find the truth here. And if there is a simple truth that refutes any or some of what Marc just said, then appear and discuss it. It's not that complicated. What is complicated is untying these webs, these self-interests, these lies, these cheats. Again, there's a reason why when you walk into you can go to West Point. There's a big plaque, I shall not lie, steal, or cheat, or lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. I mean, that's what you're saying here, and it's not it shouldn't be unnatural for people to hear this kind of investigative search or this questioning. Absolutely not. You should be proud of that, and hopefully we get to the right answer, because there are a lot of people in this world that are on the suicide watch for crypto. A lot of people have lost their entire net, whatever they had. The thing about that bubble was, of course, that it drew in people that had absolutely nothing to begin with, and they thought, okay, look, if the thing trades at a penny, it can go to 10 pennies. If it was a much more expensive lesson than a lottery ticket. So there's a lot going on there. We're about to enter the regulatory storm of that, I hope, and hopefully your questions get answered. I mean, they better. This is America.
Well, if nothing else, it's the starting point of a discussion. So it's kind of like, let's have an adult discussion on adult topics and get to the bottom of the whole thing.
Yep.
And Freeberg should at least have on his LinkedIn what he was involved in, or he should be removed from his job. And SBF be held accountable on how did this happen. And even if, there's guys pulling records on this thing. There's guys pulling bank things. There's guys pulling corporate records. If you go and really track down the employees of some of these FTX outfits, in their past, they're nothing but glorified interns. None of these people could run a lemonade stand, let alone an exchange.
Wow.
So I think I'm onto something. I think it's a discussion. I think the mainstream media wants to look the other way. Cartoon Network loves this shucksy shit, and it's again, I'm just being me. And when something's on my mind, I appreciate having me on and every now and then and giving my views and hold me accountable to what I said.
Well, we and the entire Hedgeye Nation community, your community, everyone in America should really, and the world should be listening to this. This is obviously, extending itself to a very broad discussion, a big topic that people need to know more about. So thanks for your time today, man. We appreciate it, and the ideas. Certainly.
The ideas. I eat my cooking. I own a lot, and I'm short plenty of this stuff. So we'll see how it all works. But I really appreciate you having me, and I really appreciate the job you do. You do a great job, and it sort of needs to be said because you have enough detractors out there who are jealous of what you've done, and I have great respect for you. And again, I'm not sugary, so thanks.
I appreciate
for that.
It.
You look good. You got your beauty sleep last night. So that's
thanks a bunch, man. We appreciate your time. He's Marc Cohodes. How good is that? I'm all sugary, I'm like a candy cane, sunshine, that obviously joking on that front. And to bring it back and make it quite serious, what we're trying to do and what we've been trying to do for 15 years at Hedgeye is reveal the truth, okay? We may not always be right on the path that we're taking to find the truth, but it's incumbent upon us to ask the questions, not have any political bias, not have any conflict of interest, any kind of fee, commission, whatever. Again, we're not always going to find the truth, but we're here, transparent, accountable, and trustworthy in asking the questions that might get us closer. So thank you to everyone that was a guest here today for the Real Conversations, and we'll see you for day 2 tomorrow. Hey there, Hedgeye Nation, or if you're not part of Hedgeye Nation, thanks for watching Hedgeye on YouTube. If you haven't already, make sure to click on the button below there, subscribe to our YouTube page. You can also follow the link in the description to our website to get even more great investing content.